Bleav in Rams, presented by FanDuel. Erin Coscarelli back with you guys alongside my Super Bowl winning tackle, Rob Havenstein. Another win in the books for the Rams. Rob, you got to see it in person and live at SoFi, of course, being in the CBS broadcast booth alongside JB Long, who everybody is obsessed with, including yourself. And boy, Jordan, Jordan Rodrigue of The Athletic, she is such the way she looks and watches football and her insight is just, it's purely next level. And then you've got Rob Havenstein. It really is a great trio. And then Brenda Song. So, I got to ask you,
there.
I know it's like a star-studded event. How, okay, so 2 games in the books. How you feeling?
Good. Yeah. No, I'm enjoying the experience. Seemed like it was got a bit more hang of it. Last time there was a couple things that happened that I screwed up there on the broadcast, but that's kind of the best advice is that what people told us, Erin, is that like nobody's going to really know if you messed up. So you just keep on rolling. And so that was, it's almost similar to an offensive lineman in that fact, it's like, you might have got edged out and beat a little bit, but you kind of look around, there's no flags on the field. Hey, head down the field, it's a big gain or whatever it is. So you just kind of keep her going. But so far it's been fun, but we had everybody in the booth there. Brenda Song coming in. How fun was that?
I know.
We had one of the Rams donors. She won a prize won the raffle to call the drive. And so it's like, hey, listen, it's my first time too. I don't know what I'm doing. Just let her rip.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. So Rob, obviously 11 years as an offensive lineman, already deserves all-pro honors in the broadcast booth after 2 games. He's got his final game this Thursday against the Chargers. Of course, you can catch it on CBS here in LA. But, the thing that's funny is when you do, like now I'm so comfortable that if I make a mistake, I actually in a lot of ways, like embrace it. And sometimes I'll call it out. The one thing that you never want to do is just look uncomfortable because you made the mistake. So if you can josh on yourself like you're doing right now, or just keep going, fans just want to make sure you're comfortable, because if you're not, then we're not. So I either call it out or I just keep going, because it's like you said, it's like football. If you just roll with it, no one's gonna really notice. So, but I didn't notice. And at the end of the day, you guys are all having fun. And
it's great. Erin, it's kind of like back and forth here. It's just easy to talk to those guys. And JB's been doing it for so long, and Jordan's awesome to talk to. And it's just, I've been very blessed in the start of my my new media career, which sounds weird as heck to say, being that I was a player for 11 years. But I've been working with some great people, so you can't be mad at that. And I did make a mistake. I did call. There's 2 D linemen last year I played. There's Jack Heflin, big white dude, and Bill Norton, big white dude. And for some reason, Bill turned around and ran, and I was like, "We got Jack's with the Jets right now." And I was like, "Man, now all giant white D linemen all look the same." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's on me. That's not how I meant it."
Yeah.
It was one of those. But I got to shout out Jack. He was one of my favorite guys. So
it's so funny. And doesn't it make you feel like when a JB Long goes in there and he literally crushes it, you're like, that is, I don't know, how do you do it? He's so surgical. Yeah.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
And then to boot, you got someone talking in your head. You're like, oh man, that's a whole bunch going on there. And so it gave me a finer appreciation of broadcasting. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job. We love watching you. I was I felt like a proud mom or little sister just taking out, because I was in the press box, and your CBS broadcast would pop up, and you guys were there, and you of course were towering over. Did you even fit in the broadcast booth? How does that work? Yeah, I guess so, right? They got to make it tall for you guys.
Yeah, it's tall enough. It's just the monitors are so low. I felt like half the time my head was just like this, and I was like, oh, I got to look up every now and again. So whenever they flip the camera, I'm like staring straight down, trying to look at the cameras and the notes and all that stuff. But we might sit down a little bit this next time, just so I'm a little bit more eye level with things.
It was funny too, because I had posted a photo of us because we did our post game after the game against the Saints. We're going to talk football, I promise, guys. But I must have taken an hour to figure out how to caption, because then, of course, if you guys go check out my Instagram, I tag Rob, but then I tag obviously the one of my favorite movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito called Twins, and obviously it's a classic. And I'm like, I literally started thinking about it. I'm like, how does someone who is 6'8" do life? Like, you have to duck under probably every single, tunnel. Like do you hit your head, or have you navigated that now? You're like, I know spatial awareness. I'm just a tall person.
I'm pretty good at spatial awareness. The problem is I wear a bunch of hats. And so sometimes when, the hat is low and maybe your back's a little stiff, so you think you're ducking down enough, but you can't quite see up through here. Like, I've destroyed a couple of like the airline signs of like, the bathroom door here, or like exit or whatnot. You think you're low enough, and all of a sudden it's dead center of your forehead. And you're just like, it happens a lot. Like, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to scare anyone or anything. But I've usually you learn kind of the same way a kid learns the stove is hot. How do you do that? You put your hand on the stove. So you just hit your head and do a bunch of stuff, and you're like, oh, that's 6'6" or whatever. I better duck through that one.
Yeah. It was funny too, because I was like, okay, then when you go to a concert, is everyone upset that's behind you?
I do feel bad about that. Yeah. No, especially like you go to we were out in LA for 9 years, right? So I took my kids to Disneyland a lot. And, you're standing in the little lines where they show a little movie before the ride. And so I'm like trying to get off to the side. My kids are trying to go right to the middle. And so I got to, stay with them. And I'm like, I'm just behind. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if you want to hop on my back, you can go ahead. But, just, it is what it is.
It made me think, I'm like, wow, that life, when I was trying to write this caption, I was like, the contrast, because I think you're probably 1.5 feet taller than me. I was like, wow, that is something I've never really thought of, like just the view. And it's like, you've never had a blocked view ever once in your life. You've never needed a step ladder. You don't even know what a top shelf is. Like, it's probably a bottom shelf for you at this point. So I'm like, okay, anyways, weird things. I was just trying to create contrast with this caption, and then I had to throw in a pun, because that's sometimes I like dad jokes, but all right, let's talk football finally. So I have a lot of questions now that we are entering the final third and final preseason game. All 32 teams have to make their cuts down to 53-man roster Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, which means guys are on the bubble. Yep. And you've been seeing the guys play. Obviously, McVay does not start his starters in the preseason. When you look at the team now, to you, what are the things that you're looking at as we sort of course through, that 53-man deadline on Sunday?
Yeah, first thing is kind of the big position groups that you always carry a lot of guys in. And obviously I came from the offensive line room, so that's where my mind first goes. And, the Rams have been lucky enough to have their kind of 5 stalwarts who they think are going to start the season. And then you go kind of backups from there. And, you have to carry 8 linemen on game day. And so do you carry 9? Do you carry 10? It kind of depends on that. Obviously there's been a couple injuries early with Keegan Trost and Justin Dedich with his hand. So it's like, how do you navigate the numbers of that? Is there anyone else they really like that they think if they let go, they won't potentially get back? So I always think them first. I think I got a pretty good idea of what's going on. Some of the information is a little privileged, so I won't be able to say all of it. But for me, if I was just looking at it, and like I was at practice the last couple of days, and things are pretty cement for the top 8, 9, I would say. And then from there, it's some of the guys you might have to let go, but you don't want to. And then from there, I think the biggest one, Erin, is the tight end room. I mean, you're talking about 2, 3, maybe 4 extra guys that the Rams have never really carried before, because there's Tyler Higbee, Colby Parkinson, Robert Davis, Allen,
Terrence
Terrence
Ferguson.
Ferguson, B. Ferg, Max Clares just got drafted second round. So he's there. So that's 5 right there.
Yeah.
And Sean has spoken very highly of RDA, Robert Davis Allen. Everyone just calls him Davis Allen, but he's a Robert. Especially when I was in the building, I had to make sure, like, hey, man, you're Robert. Stand tall there. But he's spoken to him and kind of mentioned him as like a glue guy. So, I feel like, he hasn't been playing or practicing with the injury. And so he does so much for that team and so much unsung stuff where that's 5 guys right there. And then you go to the other one is always big because you can never have too many good defensive backs. And so a lot of that special teams, you obviously, you have maybe your top 4. But from there, it's all, kind of special teams relief. And that's something that I quite don't know of, like, who does what better on punt, kickoff, whatever it is, gunners, on punt and stuff like that, guys with like true speed. So I kind of don't know what direction they're thinking there. But you mentioned it before, kind of off air, of like, you've got a wealth of riches. And that's the Rams' problem, is that they got a lot of good guys. And kind of with, especially the way the offense has been rolling, they got a lot of guys that they are going to count on. And eventually you're going to start adding up to that 53-man roster. And so it's where do they try to make these decisions? Do they get creative with injury designations and stuff like that? So, the bubble is as hot as it's ever been for certain guys. And I think there's going to be a couple cuts where it's going to be maybe at the last second and be like, all right, clear waivers, come back,
Yeah. And it is crazy when you think about, and they're, of course, they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. McVay obviously shared that. He shared that yesterday with us at his media avail. And then, you've got a ton of running backs. You need to make a potential roster spot open and avail. We don't know, but maybe for Aaron Donald. And how do you do it? And one of the guys that's really become a name sort of popping up on, around the news and headlines is Jarquez Hunter. And I was always wondering about him because, the Rams, obviously they don't really get a lot of playing time when you're a rookie, but this is a 4th round selection, kind of looked at him as like a big explosive guy. I mean, like you said, does not have he's just 100% traps guy. Traps. He's legit. I mean, he's a massive guy too. I saw him a couple of days ago when they did the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, the entire running back room, which was very cool. And it's just a lot of guys. And so let me ask you, do guys sort of have a sense at this point, knowing they might be not there the following week?
Yeah, some more than others. And that's not to say, a negative thing. It's just kind of the way the NFL is, where it's like, if you've been with the team for the for OTAs and stuff like that, and it's like, as your reps kind of don't increase throughout practice or throughout preseason, where it's like kind of the writing's on the wall there. But that's the best part of the preseason is like, man, I don't think I'm going to make the Rams. It's like, man, you're still going to go out and play in the preseason because Sean doesn't play his guys. So there's opportunities to go out there and get good film. Obviously, other teams can't see the practice film, but if you get out there and go show out in the preseason, you are auditioning for 31 other teams. And so if it's not with the Rams are an awesome organization. I want them to keep everybody. It's not the way you can do it. But, you still have an opportunity to go play in the NFL. And you can, if God willing and you're good enough and everything works out, then, you can have a long career in the NFL, best job in the world. I mean, it was absolutely awesome. But some guys do have a bigger understanding of probably what's going to happen during cut day. And then there are some surprises that always happen. And that usually comes down to either strictly numbers or it's the that kind of nasty financial side of things kind of starts creeping in to where, guys get called, cut candidates because they're veterans and they're carrying a contract or something like that to where, something could happen. But I've seen that throughout my time. And Aaron, it's better now that we have the I guess one big cut over a long extended period because my first couple of years, I just looked it up. It was 2021. They switched from 4 preseason games to 3, and they went from 2 cuts to 1 kind of big cut. And that 2 cut time was tough because it was kind of in the middle of camp. And so how do you cut guys? It's like, oh, everyone goes and lifts. And then all of a sudden the strength guy will start walking around and grabbing guys and being like, hey, coach needs to speak to you. And he's trying to do it as discreetly as possible, but everyone's on edge anyway. So everyone's looking. And I remember back in the, I guess I did start with the St. Louis days. They'd play "Don't Fear the Reaper" by Blue Oyster Cult, and so it's the grim Reaper running around grabbing people, and so he didn't love the day either. And
it was always the strength coach.
It was always the strength coach, or it switched now to some of those personnel. The scouting personnel will come grab you, but before it was just the head strength coach, because he had a good rapport with guys and knew that he personally had a good personal relationship with him. Rock Gullickson was his name, awesome strength coach. But his songs just on repeat and just playing and playing and playing. You're kind of lifting and kind of doing your little pump, and then all of a sudden he starts walking and you start backing up away from him. Don't talk to me, like, Rock, I love you, not today. Like, just if you want to say hi, you got something for me, like, mail it in tomorrow, send me an email, whatever it happens to be. I don't want a face-to-face right now. And so and that was too with the reason they went from 4 to 3 is that 4th game, a lot of the cuts have already happened. So guys you were going to rely on in the season had to play that game just based off numbers. So people were getting hurt that were expected to be a big contributor to the season because somebody had to go play that 4th preseason game. So they cut it down to 3, and it's now 3 is kind of taking position of 4, but you still have all the numbers, which honestly gives it a great opportunity for those guys to go out there and play and, have good film and get out there and go find themselves on another team, whether it's active roster or practice squad, like just be in the NFL and you get a better shot to make it to where you want to be. But, there were some sketchy times there, when Blue Oyster Cult came up over the radio and all of a sudden you're taking a couple extra water breaks around the corner.
Yeah, you're like, not today, Grim
Not
Reaper.
today.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, Rob Havenstein, you were with the team 11 years. So 11 years. Did you ever at one point feel like the Grim Reaper was going to come for you at any point?
Yeah, no, there was a couple spots where I thought, it's whether it was play or whether it was contract stuff where I was like, it could be touch and go here for a little bit. I remember my second year and it was 2018, 2017. But they drafted, Joe Noteboom out of TCU, and he was for a 3rd round pick, and it was one of those like, why are you drafting a tackle? Like, you don't need to do that. And like, what? Why are you doing that? And so Joe's one of my good friends, so I'm not saying anything bad, but there were certain times where you get a little worried, Aaron, especially when you have you've got a couple dollar signs behind your name, and you're whether or not you're on that piece of paper about highlighted, can we improve here, lose this contract and get to a rookie contract or something like that. So.
Yeah. Well, the good news for a lot of these guys that, like you said, might be on the bubble, could be getting cut, most likely could find a home somewhere else because, like you said, there's just such a wealth of talent. I guess it's a good problem to have.
It's the best problem to have. You got to cut people, and so you'd rather cut good people just because of numbers than just be like, listen, I regretted bringing you in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's going to be the case for most guys on the Rams. Yeah.
Yeah. Really interesting. And then always coach handles that that breakup. Is you go to coach, you sit down, not that you know that experience, but Grim Reaper takes you directly and coach kind of does that conversation he does it.
Yeah. Now, granted, I don't know specifically whether it's Les or it's
Right.
especially with Sean. I know Sean is a very personal guy where it's like, listen, if there's going to be bad news, he doesn't want somebody else to have to do it for him. That's just the type of guy Coach Sean is. And so he wants to, be able to sit down, and if you have questions, ask. He's going to be very, upfront with you. Just from what I've heard, that's a little bit more speculation than me truly knowing, just because, I've never quite had that in the, during the preseason. All of my is the Reaper coming for me were kind of not during the preseason time.
Right. Well, yeah, I think Coach and Les both probably have that sort of outlook. And I remembered last year when Josh Carty was sort of up for potentially losing his job to, in the kicking game. Coach wanted to make sure he was going to go somewhere or land somewhere. And he didn't, I can tell the way he was speaking about that moment that was hard. He wanted to make sure he was going to, take care of his guys, even if they're not able to make the team. And at the end of the day, it is 53-man roster. That is just the rules. The Rams didn't make it. Right. And trying to keep everybody on the teams, just, it doesn't work, obviously. I can't believe we've already surpassed 20 minutes. This is what happens when you're with Rob Havenstein. But I did want to ask you a couple of good questions here with regards to now that you're in the booth and, so you have, as broadcasters who are covering the game, you tend to get like a pre-meeting before the game, the broadcast with the coach. Like now that you're on the other side, is there something that you're seeing or have you experienced that was like, ooh, that's interesting, these pre-meetings with the coach before the actual broadcast? Like what's been that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's the first one was definitely a little strange. Just because it's like, man, I've most of my meetings happen with Sean in a team meeting at the beginning of the day, and then all of a sudden you're kind of on the other side, and it's I'm part of the broadcast. And so it's like, he's like, all right, he finished his, his kind of, who's going to play, who's not going to play. And then went into like, all right, what do you got? And it was kind of like, oh, shoot. All right. I was supposed to have questions ready. It was like one of those things of, I kind of just didn't really know what to expect, until you actually just kind of go walk through it. And luckily I was, savvy enough to go ahead and actually think up of a couple questions. But it was also to the point of like, I don't want to ruin any trust that we have, with Sean. Obviously we've had an awesome relationship these past, 9 seasons for me. He's going on his 10th. And so it's like, I was like, oh, can I say that? Can I ask that? It's like, is that privilege information? He was like, well, I mean, no, it's my experience. So it's like, but he's so open where he can kind of let me be myself. And I, if I asked and he hasn't said it yet, I'm like, hey, listen, I can't answer that or something like that. He's been very open and honest. And that's been my experience with Sean the whole time. And that's what I love about a Sean McVay is that he is just genuine. And if he ever says something where he's like, hey, this is between us, he'll still say it. And you're like, oh, that's the way you're thinking about it. Okay. That's great. And so that's that's a really cool thing to have a guy like Sean, the winningest head coach in Rams history, going on his 10th year. He's second longest tenured, which is crazy because I remember when he was 30 when he got hired. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. It's awesome. But Sean's the man. And it is a little weird being on that side of things, especially since I'm out here in LA right now and I've been going to practice and. I can obviously go stand by the, where the offensive linemen stand and kind of get a better appreciation of things. It's just like, oh, I'm really not going to do this again. In which case I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that.
That's so cool. I mean, and you take us through, from your perspective, we so appreciate, and even when we had Coach Dave Ragone on last week, he's like, look, you're going to have the ability to tell the story of what it was like to play with Matthew Stafford, what it was like to be coached by Sean McVay. And I think we appreciate that because we just don't know. And when you humanize these guys, that ends up being sort of my favorite touch points because I don't know how to I could play football. I don't really understand what it's like to be in the trenches and get tackled and be in a huddle and adversity and playing in Chicago where it's snowing at Soldier Field. Those are things that we want to know. And so when you tell us, and Coach McVay has said during the pressers, he's like, oh, Rob's going to be on the broadcast booth. How cool is that? You just know he's rooting for you, which it seems like that just kind of is the way he is.
Yeah.
And as the Rams get ready for, now we're 2 weeks away essentially from the regular season. Rams, it's crazy. It's it's crazy. Against the Niners, the Rams are favored by 3.5 on FanDuel Sportsbook. They've got a bunch of cool stuff. Go check it out. Who's scoring the touchdown first? But it's been an interesting season nonetheless to get excited and ramped up for. And it was funny because you mentioned authenticity. McVay, when he was talking about the NFL, he's like, I feel like I'm taking a freaking gummy. And I'm like, we all laughed when he talked about his thoughts on players going from NFL camps to back to college, which it does seem kind of crazy, no?
It's mind blowing. I mean, if they allowed that, you've lost all amateurism of college football. I mean, it's like, stop trying to hide behind the sheep's wool. It's like, that's just, everything is gone. I mean, Erin, I don't know how you felt when you first heard about that, but you like kind of the same thing when I heard that Miles was going to the Rams. I was like, all right, this is a fake media account or something like that. And then you're looking at it, it's like ESPN reported it. And you're like, what are we doing right now? Like, guys are leaving NFL camps, clearing NFL waivers to go sign back to college. Like, that's, oh my gosh, it's mind blowing. It was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I mean, because it ruins everything that college is about. At least they were trying to say that, hey, you're a student athlete. When I was going through, you're here to get your degree first, which, obviously a lot of us took to heart. But then the famous quote by Cardell Jones, I ain't here to play school, which is a fantastic line. As soon as he said that, I was like, I love that forever. But nowadays, that's kind of, that's the reality of college sports right now. And so I'm glad, at least as so far I've seen, the Big Ten and the SEC have said, no, you can't do that. Have you heard anyone else kind of do that?
Yeah, that's what popped up for me was the Big Ten, and it does seem like we're in the wild west in terms of where is the obviously commissioner needs. There's no seemingly like central organization being casted out, and it is a little confusing, and even Coach McVay yesterday was mystified when media was asked him. So yeah,
it's funny too. I mean, he just comes out and just off the rip feels like I'm taking a gummy right now, and it's like, yeah, that's probably pretty similar.
It's accurate. That's accurate. Yeah. I think all of us are like, it doesn't feel like reality. And you said the word that is so true about college football. It's supposed to be amateur. It's not supposed to be professional yet, but then these guys are getting paid. Where do you draw the line?
They let that cat out of the bag by just, I feel like the NCAA was just like, all right, screw you guys. You've been talking, whatever, do whatever you want. And it's like, people are doing it, I mean, guys are in college for 7, 8, some guys going into his 9th year or something like that, obviously with, injury designations and all that. But it's like, man, now you got the 5-for-5 rule and people coming back from mini camps to go back and play. It's absolutely wild. And the biggest thing I'm wrestling with, because, having been a college football player myself, is I want to blame the kids, but I can't. I can't blame the players at all, because it's like, you're a 18, 19, 20-year-old and someone's going to give you $1 million to go somewhere else. And you're like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. 100% I'll do it. How much again? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Where do I sign? I go there, and then all of a sudden you can do it again next year. And you're like, all right, is this the best for my football development? Probably not. I can guarantee you it's probably not, but it's still, that's a chunk of money. So, I mean, Erin Coscarelli, you're a 19-year-old football player, and all of a sudden you're playing for your home state, and everything's great, and then all of a sudden Alabama comes out and says they're going to give you $1.2 million if you come transfer during the season. Are you doing it?
You better believe it.
You better believe it. Yeah. See, I'm out of here.
I mean, you don't know you don't know if you could get injured. You could it may not work. Things may not work out. I saw yesterday or a couple of days ago, Fernando, was it $2.5 million? He ended up saying, right. And then I think I remember him saying it was 50% less than the next school. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's insane, and so, it's
wild.
Interesting times for sure. Wild. Taking a gummy. All right.
Taking a gummy. And clearly I'm very passionate about this because it just riles me up.
Yeah. I mean, we could we'll probably have to talk again about this, but it would be interesting to get your perspective on what this is going to end up looking like. And I think, I don't know if anyone even knows how to resolve this or what it's going to look like or how to keep it fair. Are we going to have one super league? Is it going to be just basketball and football? I mean, there's a lot going into all of this. And listen, at the NFL level, we're all just kind of like, I guess we'll watch it all play out. I don't know.
Right. Grab your popcorn.
Yeah. Get your popcorn ready. In the meantime, Speaking of popcorn, Thursday night football, 7 p.m. Rams taking on the Chargers. They are the away team, but it is at SoFi. And Rob Havenstein, Jordan Rodriguez, JB Long will be in the CBS local broadcast booth. All right. Well, let's do this again. We'll do Sunday. We'll do maybe something with regards to the 53-man roster. I think a lot of people will be very curious to see kind of who advances. Will there be one extra roster spot available just in case someone wants to come back? We'll see.
Maybe.
We're just saying over here. All right. I'm Erin Coscarelli, Rob Havenstein, Bleav in Rams, presented by FanDuel. Thank you guys for listening.